is a good time to be a Vorthos. Not only is the new official story for Wilds of Eldraine absolute fire, but Boom Studios has been helping turn that fire into an inferno. In fact, it's these comics that really suit the Magic story better than anything else, because of the flexibility that they offer. In the canon, things can be fixed in a way that causes dissension in the community, an activity that happens more regularly than me on a high-fiber diet. It's a lack of having to be canon that serves two purposes. It can go its own way and still borrow as much or as little from it as it wants. So when the news came out that Liliana and Sorin Markov were going to be paired up for a one-off comic, I was, as they say, over the moon my pants excited. These are two of my favorite Planeswalkers, and like Channing Tatum asking me if I would like to sleep with him, my answer is always going to be, yes, thank you, when can I get it? The good news is I got it, and now you can too. Planeswalker Notorious #1 is 2 segments, which I actually didn't realize because of my Liliana/Sorin obsession. So in all fairness, I walked into the comic not interested in seeing anyone else but those two, and it has informed my opinion on the first story, Tangled Strings, by Richard Duchek. Duchek is a talented writer, and there's nothing objectively wrong with the story. It's my own petty bias at work, and I accept that. But as far as I'm concerned, there are very few Planeswalkers that are as boring and uninteresting as Oko and Calyx. Maybe that will change in regards to Oko with the new upcoming release of the Wiki Wild West story arc that we have coming up in 2024, but as of now, there is not anything going on with those two that I find riveting, especially against the very bright star power of Liliana and Sorin. The story itself revolves around Oko fucking around with Calyx, a planeswalker created by Clothis, who basically would translate to a Greek goddess of grudges because the bitch does not let anything go. But I digress. Anyway, Calyx was created by Clothis specifically to return Elspeth to the underworld. Now, although canon is not applied here, we all know Elspeth has been transformed into a divine angel of absolute power that took down Elesh Norn without even breaking a sweat, assuming that angels sweat, which I don't know if they do. But this imagery of Elspeth makes her very difficult to see as someone who would be in any potential danger whatsoever regarding Calyx. And as for Oko, he is, much like his brief appearance in gameplay before the banhammer went down, apparently here just to mess around with people and or planeswalkers on their day-to-day business. I know he's based off the myth of Anansi, but that isn't enough reason for me to find it a compelling character to see an entire story devote itself to. But again, this is my myopic, completely selfish take. Both the story and the artwork are going to thrill any fans of these characters, so please take everything I said with a grain of salt, and then add about 20 pounds of salt to it. Now comes Grave Secrets, the story that had me absolutely frothing with excitement like a horny cappuccino machine, and the real reason I was annoyed with the previous story taking up space in the first place. Did I love it? Yes. Was it way too short? Painful, yes. Lily and Sorin deserve their own series as far as I'm concerned. These two make an incredible team, and they're both woefully misunderstood by their gruff exteriors, yet are secretly altruistic anti-heroes that touch my sensibilities in a way that had me hooked the moment I met them in the original storylines. Grave Secrets, written by acclaimed horror writer Cullen Bunn, turns the camp factor up to 10. This is Lily and Sorin on performance-enhancing drugs, and let me tell you, they are juiced up and ready to lift. As a matter of fact, the lack of Sorin and Liliana in the canon has, of late, made this little slice of black mana pie even more delightful. The understanding of the characters here is apparent. There are these delicious one-liners that are fired off from Liliana and Sorin as they're kicking ass against a villain who comes so far out of left field and was so exciting, it actually made me have to use the bathroom. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to know the surprise villain, just skip ahead until you don't see the spoiler in progress image on the screen. I am a firm believer in consent, and that belief applies to spoilers. If you don't consent, skip now. If you do consent, here we go. The villain that is actually being utilized here is Baron Sengir, one of the earliest vampires in the game itself. If not the first vampire. I think that's what he is. Yeah, the first vampire. Sengir predates Sorin's storyline, but has not made an appearance since Homelands. As it turns out, he has been kept in some sort of intergalactic lock because he's so dangerous that him being out in the wilds of the multiverse would result in the vampirization of everybody everywhere. Like Nicol Bolas and Elesh Norn, he is chasing the dream of ascending to godhood. He is that big of a piece of shit, but he's a very effective piece of shit, and he has the huevos más grandes to actually try and do this. Cue Liliana and Sorin Markov. Okay, spoilers are over, we can get back to the review. If I only have one complaint, it's that it's just too short, and with it being a one-off, it doesn't look like it's going much further than these 20 pages, which is a pity because it has me absolutely ravenous for more. And again, I can say I could have seen an entire story arc for something much grander as far as I'm concerned, because this is just every character that I love in front center and interacting with each other, including the villain I mentioned earlier. I want more, me hungry, give me food. In conclusion, I would say if you have any itch that could be scratched by the appearance of any of these characters I mentioned here, buy the comic. We all know the best thing about Magic, well, not counting the mechanics and gameplay and all that boring stuff, is the story. The canon is in full bloom thanks to writers like K. Arsenault Rivera and Sean McGuire and the in-house story team, and the comics are like beautiful little surprises that pop up and make the garden even prettier, and essential for the Magic storyline to continue to do its own creative thing and not be held hostage by what the official canon says. It would be an absolute shame, nay, travesty, nay, fucking disaster if the storyline were to stop because of, I don't know, universes beyond coming in and taking away every bit of creative juice that could be plucked from a very ripe fruit that swings all dangly like in the metaphorical garden. I don't even know why I'm still fixated on the garden imagery, but you know what? I'm gonna roll with it, so that's all I have to say about Planeswalker Notorious 1, and let's hope that this actually is just the first of many one-offs. Well, that's all for now, Spellslingers. Ta!